All right, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon, as the case may be. It is 10:01 by my watch in Chicago, so it's time to begin. Thank you for attending this PowerCast, How FRS Integrated Webdocs Transform Their Businesses by Greg Schmidt of HelpSystems and Carl Novit of FRS. This PowerCast is sponsored by HelpSystems. My name's Ian Carrade. I'm Education Manager for COMMON, and I appear on your screen as webcast host. If you experience any technical issues during the presentation, you can send me a chat message using the chat box bottom right of the screen. If you'd like to send a written question to Carl or Greg during the presentation, use the Q&A area on the lower right section of the screen and select to send to all panelists. Carl and Greg will answer your questions at the end of the presentation as time permits. As I said, we have two speakers today, Greg Schmidt and Carl Novit, and I'm going to hand control over to Greg to handle the instructions. Greg, go ahead.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ian. Well, good morning and afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. Again, my name is Greg Schmidt. I'm coming to you from the headquarters here at HelpSystems in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. I'll be one of the presenters today, like Ian said, that we'll be talking to Carl Novit from FRS on how they integrated Webdocs to transform their business. For today's webinar, again, I'm pleased to announce that joining me on the webinar today is one of our longtime customers, Carl Novit from FRS. A little bit later, I'll be asking Carl a series of questions around how FRS went through the process of selecting and implementing and integrating our document management solution into their business. Just really quick agenda before we get started here. So I'll do some quick introductions, and then I'm going to do a quick solution overview on what HelpSystems does for document forms management. And then I'll move into the main conversation with Carl and hear from him directly on how they implemented Webdocs and the journey around that. And then we'll, like Ian said, we'll be finishing up with some Q&A at the end to answer any questions that you may have. All right, let's get started. Again, my name is Greg Schmidt. I'm the Senior Technical Solutions Consultant for the Document and Forms Management brand here at HelpSystems. I've been with the Document and Forms Management brand for over 20 years now. I specialize in pre-sales demonstrations, proof of concepts, business process requirements gathering, pre-implementation design, and best practice guidance within organizations. And also my guest speaker that's joining me today, Carl Novit from FRS. Carl Novit is the vice president and owner of FRS. He is a third generation in the restaurant supply business. He has been using mid-range systems since the days of the System 36. He taught himself RPG2 in the comforts of his own dining room. Also, Carl is a member of the Common Americas Advisory Council and the chair of the Common IT Executives Conference. He's not really sure how it happened, but somehow he became the company geek at FRS. Well, knowing Carl, I'm sure it was because of his love for technology and his eagerness to learn new things. And next here, I want to just cover a quick little overview of FRS itself. So FRS is a restaurant, equipment, and supply superstore specializing in commercial kitchen equipment and providing customers with a vast selection of restaurant, bar, and kitchenwares. FRS has proudly been serving the North and South Carolina areas for more than 50 years. Now, I just want to cover a high-level overview of what HelpSystems offers from the document and forms management system itself. The HelpSystems document and forms management solution helps companies manage their entire life cycle of their documents, from simply just capturing and managing your IBM spool files securely to all the incoming documents in your organization. Capturing documents can be an interactive experience or a fully automated unattended experience as well. With built-in workflow, we can manage all kinds of process-based documents with security and control for compliance and regulatory purposes. Our solution also offers a full web-based form solution with workflow automation for approvals and review. The forms creation software is all browser-based, so all the forms can be created directly with the drag and drop interface. Also, approvals can be done with the same interface dependent on security of the users. And last of all, we also offer in our solution set is our iForms solution. It is the electronic forms and document creation software so that you can create any business form that you need to be professional looking and customer facing. The document management suite covers the entire spectrum of automating your key document and forms processes. In short, we truly transform the way companies create, collect, and collaborate with their business documents and data. We also provide organizations with a complete toolkit to integrate and automate their business processes and document capture. With our solution toolkit, we help organizations improve and optimize their document and forms process with automation. If it's full company automation you're looking for to achieve, or if it's just simply solving a problem in one department, our solution can help you. Again, our solution helps with documents and forms management, spool file and report management for the IBMI, document and forms creation assembly on IBMI and Windows, and a full AP document process automation for the IBMI with our advanced capture and system called Webdocs for AP. Okay, now it's time to hear from Carl at FRS. Good morning, Carl, and welcome.
Good morning, Greg. Good morning, everyone.
Great. Carl, I'm going to start out the interactive question section today, and I would like to start out with asking a couple questions around the need that originated for Webdocs. So the first question I have for you, Carl, is what specific factors or problems led FRS to a document management solution?
So the beginning of this process was when we grew from one location to two in getting paperwork from the remote branch back to the office, specifically receiving paperwork when merchandise came in so that the accounts payable department could match up receivers with accounts payable invoices and get the bills paid. And we weren't getting it done timely. We've always prided ourselves on processing AP quickly, paying our bills timely, taking cash discounts, and this was becoming an issue. We started this so long ago, we were actually faxing documents back and forth. And that was the beginning.
Nice, nice. Yeah, and the next question, Carl, from that standpoint is, what are some of those key drivers or problems, and who recognized that need for the system?
Well, I guess it was me that recognized it because I am the business analyst in our company, if you will, and I also lead our finance team. So I'm going, this isn't working, and we have to figure something out. I didn't know what the something was at the time. I just knew we had a problem and we needed to solve it.
Good, good, good. Okay, perfect. All right, and so Carl, the next set of questions I want to ask you is around the evaluation process of the solution. So so what things did you consider in that search for a solution?
So I wanted a solution that would integrate with our process. I didn't want a separate solution that I had to depend on our people for making sure they did it. I wanted to be able to integrate it with our code. We own our code. Our code is homegrown. We own every line of it. And I wanted to be able to integrate the process from beginning to end. So that was important to me as I was looking around.
So integration and standardization was key to that process then, you would say?
Correct.
Awesome. Perfect. So the next question is, how did you evaluate the solutions before you decided on Webdocs itself?
Well, my process started at a COMMON conference. I walked around the expo and talked to every vendor that provided this type product. And so I'll just go into the next question. So I'll back up a second. Some vendors didn't have integration. Some vendors didn't store their images on the IFS. That was important to me because we're a small technical shop. I wanted everything on the IFS so it would just be backed up by BRMS. So as I was walking around and talking to vendors at COMMON, the focus became more narrow and more narrow. Quite honestly, I chose Webdocs. We already had a relationship with RJS. We were using the email report server. RJS let me tick off the rest of my requirements. The answer became obvious.
Great. So that answers sort of that next question, Carl. So why did you choose Webdocs, right? So it sounds like that was from more of the integration standpoint, native, being able to keep that product native and integrate into those processes.
Correct. And the previous relationship. We're big on relationships.
Perfect. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, as well as we are. So awesome. All right. Okay, now the next section of questions here are focused around the benefits you've gotten, from implementing Webdocs and also integrating into the business systems on your IBMI. So the next question I have for you is, how has FRS integrated Webdocs within your business, fully in those different areas?
So we have integrated Webdocs into the receiving AP process, as I've mentioned, into the sales order process, the AR process, if you will. We're using it for HR as a standalone product. It's not integrated into any code. The best example that I can give is that 8 or 9 years ago, we moved our corporate office. We only moved one file cabinet. And there's actually only 2 drawers that have anything in it in that one file cabinet.
So you really took away from the storage standpoint, the physical storage standpoint as well.
Right. Right. We image everything from purchase orders. Here's an example. When we create a purchase order today to a vendor, we use iForms to generate the form. It's then fed to the email report server to email to the vendor, and then checked into Webdocs so that if we need to look at the actual purchase order. So we don't ever print the purchase order.
Nice. So you're fully electronic at that point, as much as paperless as possible at this point.
Right. As I like to say, we're less paper. Because I don't know that you can ever get totally paperless. At least we haven't.
Yeah, and that's a misconception in the industry. You're never going to be fully paperless, but you will reduce a huge amount of paper, large amounts.
Right.
Yeah. Great.
So that's one example. Another example is our accounts receivable statements at month end. We use, and this is completely automated and run from the job scheduler. AR statements are generated using iForms. Using another product, the splitter product. We take the spool file, and if we have a customer email on file, that statement is emailed to the customer. If we don't have an email on file, it is printed to be physically mailed and then checked into Webdocs for archiving.
Nice.
So we have looked for and continue to look for ways to leverage the technology that we own to make the processes more efficient.
Yeah, and still learning every day, I bet, too, as you get into different processes and stuff like that. You learn, some new features of the software come out, or some of the features that you might not have been using. So you get some of the other value out of the solution as well as you learn.
The AR statement process is it's less than 2 years old. It's just, a light came on. We thought about it.
Nice. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, there's always, and we're going to hear from Carl here in just a minute too on some of the, he's always doing something new and exciting and looking how to optimize, different things inside of the organization. So, and using the solution to gain all the benefits of it as well. But we'll hear more about some of that a little bit later here. The next set of questions, Carl, that I want to walk you through here from that standpoint is, how has FRS integrated? So from the integration standpoint, so how what technically the last question I have for you is, what's next, for that opportunity to integrate Webdocs and the modernization process. So what are you looking at currently today, and some of those thoughts for the future to optimize, standardize, the different processes.
So we still have a few paper forms, a new customer form. We have a contract for one specific piece of our business that customers, we fill out, we scan it, we email it, the customer prints it, signs it, scans it, and sends it back in. Then we print it out or somehow check it into Webdocs, whether we drag it in or print it out and scan it. So the next thing to do is to create a Webdocs form management form, which is a product from Help, where the customer can go online, fill out the form, submit the form to us. There is a workflow piece, so the form will go to the correct personnel at FRS, and the last step is it'll get checked into Webdocs. And with some exit point programs that HelpSystems provides, the correct people inside of FRS will be notified.
So you took basically a process that had many steps to it, and basically standardized the front end capture of that. So you're not collecting paper on that front end anymore, and more did it from the form, or thinking from the form standpoint.
Correct.
Nice.
So I think we've identified 8 forms that we will eventually migrate to this process. So far, we've completed one, and there may be some others, and there's one internal form that we're still using a PDF internally. So we're going to migrate that.
Yeah, it sounds like a wonderful use case. Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, any kind of those business forms, though, as you come up with those forms, and that's a great use case for the forms management, because it has the whole, UI part of it, web-based UI, and then also the process behind it can be enforced with the workflows. So, and the data export and integration.
Correct.
Yep. Awesome. Perfect. Carl, was there anything else that you wanted to add to that part before I move on?
There's one thing that just came to mind that was important for us. We go back to the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and that was to integrate these processes into our process. Meaning, the perfect example is when our warehouse staff is receiving merchandise and they're entering the information into our system, they are prompted, and through some HelpSystems programs, the scan workstation comes up on their PC, and they are basically forced to scan the documents. And you can't continue the process until they've checked the document in.
So you put in standardization around that piece of it then to enforce that. Yeah.
Right. It is enforced. It is integrated into our code. They can't go to the next step until the document is checked into Webdocs. And we've done that throughout. Accounts payable, purchase order receiving, accounts receivable. It is a forced process, a required process.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Perfect. All right, wonderful. Carl, I just want to thank you. So that concludes the questions I have for you today. There might be some questions in Q&A that come up that I might need you to step in on, but I just want to thank you for your input on this subject today. And I really love, after 20 years of being a solution engineer and stuff like that, and doing implementation, and we've worked together quite a few years too, Carl. But it's really nice to hear how people are and companies are using the software to help better their processes, and also the integration that people do just amazes me sometimes with the toolkits into the IBMI applications.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure to do this.
Perfect. All right, so that concludes my questions for Carl. Like I said, we might have a question or two for him in the chat here. So that brings us to the Q&A section.
All right, folks, you can send in your questions using the Q&A panel. It's on the right frame of the screen. There is a little Q&A thing that you might have to maximize. And when you do send in those questions, please, there's a pull down, the send to pull down. Make sure you send them to all panelists, so both Greg, Carl, and I can see your questions. But go ahead and put in your questions now. Greg, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Let me get looking through the questions here. And if I don't get to all the questions today, I will follow up after the presentation to answer any ones that we did not get to today. All right, let me take a peek at this here, move some screens around. All right, so one of the questions that we have here is that I want to start with is, what types of documents can I capture? This is a great question. Really, Webdocs is non-proprietary, so it can capture any type of document and manage that document securely into it. So if it's a IBMI spool file that we monitor and convert and bring into the system, to any PC-based files, emails, drawings, audio files, and stuff like that. So there truly is really no limit to the file types that you can be captured and stored inside of Webdocs. So that's one of the big things when companies come to us. They ask that question: is, can we hold our CAD files? Can we hold our emails inside of here and all that stuff? And can we do our spool files and manage our forms and stuff like that? So we use that so it can capture truly anything. All right, let me get through another question here. Does Webdocs integrate with my IBMI system? That's a great question. I don't know what application that you're talking about from the integrating into, but just so you know, whether you're using a packaged or a homegrown software on the IBMI and other platforms, Webdocs can be integrated into your 5250 interfaces, browser-based, Windows-based applications, so that searching and retrieval of documents can be done with a function key or just a mouse click. Built into the Webdocs, we have full REST APIs, client proxy integration, and also, like Carl was talking about earlier, native RPG commands that you can integrate into. So you can use them to do your integration. In my 20 years here, I have not seen any application, IBMI and Windows-based, that we could not do integration into with our toolkit that we provide in the core product. So that was a great question. But it would be nice to know a little bit more about that too, of what business system you're looking to do integration into. And that could be some more conversation that we could have as well later on. All right, and the next question here, Carl, I'm actually going to bring you into this question if this is okay. It's a two-part one. Do you think after implementing and I think you answered a little bit of this already, Carl, do you think after you implement the forms system, is it going to reduce the amount of paper you store?
That's an interesting question, because we're actually not storing the physical paper now. When those PDFs come back to us, we're checking them into Webdocs and then shredding them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not going to decrease the amount of paper we store, but it will decrease the amount of paper we have to process.
Yep, and optimize that process around it too, I would imagine. Yep.
Right.
Perfect. Yeah. And the second part of that question was also, is it going to streamline the process, right? So I think I answered that. So I think you answered that as well. So I think it's going to definitely streamline that because I believe with your credit application form, you get notification internally once that's submitted. So it does do some routing and some workflow process around that.
Correct.
Correct. Yep. Awesome. All right. All right. I'm going to do one more here. And let's do this one here. So can Webdocs run on other systems than the IBMI? And if so, can it still integrate to the IBMI? Yes. Most of our customers that are native IBMI customers do run the native solution, and they can also run the native Windows solution, but we have full integration capability back into the IBMI from either platform it's running on. We usually make that, if you're like Carl's using it, he's on the side of RPG programs and stuff like that, where it makes a lot more sense to run it native on the IBMI because the integration package for the IBMI is way stronger than the Windows package for the IBMI, direct integration pieces. So we do direct from that standpoint. You can run it on either platform. Our tools are agnostic from that standpoint of either Windows or IBMI, so it will connect back and do that processing from that standpoint. So as you're moving to new systems and stuff like that, you can definitely still run it natively on the IBMI and take advantage of some of those things that Carl is taking advantage of today. All right, Ian, I am going to hand it back over to you. So that brings us to the end of the webinar. Again, I just personally want to thank Carl for joining us today and giving us the background on his journey of implementing and integrating Webdocs into his business. And I want to thank everybody that attended today as well. So I'll hand it back to Ian.
Great, thanks, Greg. I will tell you that there will be a replay of this event if you want to look at it later, as well as a PDF version of the slides that Greg went through, and that will be available on a community that we will send the URL out for later in the day and perhaps as late as tomorrow morning. Everybody, thank you for your time. Greg and Carl, thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks, Carl.
Everybody have a good day.
You too.